Good morning from my front yard sanctuary, and I just so happen to have my Sato FA65 Gold Knight engine with me. And I was just thinking last night about making another video here, just some morning ramblings about some things, and maybe a little bit of advice for those of you that are looking to, start buying some glow engines, get into the hobby. So I've noticed that many of you may not know this, but I really actually stopped this hobby probably close to a year and a half or so ago. And back in October of last year, I sold all the engines, gave away all the engines and most all the accoutrement that went with the hobby. Got rid of it all because I was pretty much done with it. I am done with this hobby, at least to the degree that I have been for the last 30 years. But even though I stopped doing all that, I noticed that the subscriber count on the channel continued to grow and grow. And I really wasn't understanding why that was, because I wasn't really posting any videos. And after having done probably over 1,600 airplane or glow engine related videos, there really wasn't a whole lot more I could do anyway, after having featured well over 100 different engines. So I got to thinking, and as many of you know, I did buy this engine, and I made a quick video series on it, and it was very well received. But it got me thinking that since I'm not really going to be getting back into this hobby per se and doing what I was doing, is there another way I can help out and contribute to those that may be new to the hobby, just getting into glow engines and that type of thing? Because as many of you know that have been around for a while, and many of you newcomers know, that glow engines are not really that easy to come by. It's not like you can just go down to the hobby store, because there aren't hobby stores anymore, and just pick one of these up new in box. And the offerings are so much more limited right now. I mean, Sato is still making some engines, but their line is so small now. OS makes a few 4-strokes, but so many things are going to gas, and things are just very different than they were 30 years ago when I got into the hobby. And I got into the hobby in 1988, and I would say from there till the end of the 90s was probably my heyday. And I was buying engines right and left, building airplanes, flying. Well, in those days, we didn't have the internet. We didn't have RC swap meets and stuff. Well, we had swap meets, but not RC forums. We didn't have that wide mass coverage of the hobby, so you were relegated to what you could find at the hobby store or people at the field selling their used stuff. So all the engines I bought in those days were brand new in box. So I'm very familiar with what a new in box engine looks like, the accessories that come with it, and those types of things. And this is where the advice comes in. Those of you that are fairly new getting into glow engine maybe for the first time, I would highly recommend not buying used engines. And there's several reasons for that. First of all, just about every new or used engine you are going to buy is going to require bearings to be replaced, because that just gives you the best peace of mind if you're going to fly that, operate that engine for many years. So if you don't feel comfortable doing that, even though I've got plenty of videos on my channel that give you good tips on how to do that, and other parts that may or may not need to be, or may need to be replaced. That's the thing, is a lot of these engines, especially these classic engines, the old OS and Sato from the 80s and 90s, parts are becoming incredibly hard to come by for these engines. I mean, very hard. You're almost relegated to just buying two engines. One that looks halfway decent, and then one as a parts engine. Because finding parts is really getting to be difficult, especially for the OS engines of the mid to late 80s and even into the 90s. So that's another reason that my advice is, if you're going to be getting into glow engines now, buy new in box. Now I know you can't just go to a hobby store and find these kinds of engines new in box, but they are out there. eBay is where I've been buying most of my engines. I did buy engines from RC groups for a while, but I kind of like the format of eBay better. But I found I got a lot of good engines, mostly used. But I mean, there are new in-box engines out there, and you can find them, but you really kind of need to know what to look for as far as what types of things come with engines. Now, back in the late 80s, 90s, engines like this actually came with tools and accessories, not just an engine in a box and an exhaust and that's it, like is being sold now. You actually got tools in bags and stuff like that. So my advice is, you're going to pay more now because people understand, the people that have these new in-box engines and they're trying to liquidate them, and a lot of reasons why these engines are popping up all over eBay now is because, unfortunately, a lot of the people that bought these are older and are passing on, and they never even got a chance to use the engine, or they never intended to use it. So there are new in-box engines to be had out there if you have patience and you know what to look for. So, and you better be willing to spend some money. And when I say that, I'm talking just your average, maybe 45 to 80 size 4-stroke engine. Look to pay between $200 and $300. Basically about what retail was in the 90s for me. Because people that are selling these, many people that are selling these things know what they're worth and they know what they can get for them. Now, that's not to say that you can't get a good deal, because there are many times, and I've taken advantage of this several times, where you find a new in-box engine and the person that's selling it has no freaking clue. And you're like, yeah, I'm getting all over that. So you can find deals like that also. But that's my advice, and my ramblings for this morning's video is, if you're new and getting into the hobby, I would highly recommend trying to find new in-box engines whenever possible. Because if you take care, you know how to properly care and maintain and operate these engines, whether it's 2-stroke or 4-stroke, they will last you for many years, as long as you do the proper maintenance and take care of them. You won't need to worry about buying spare parts for these new in-box engines, other than bearings and glow plugs and maybe a ring every now and then. But to be honest with you, in all the years I've been doing this, I've really replaced very few rings. So the rings are available. You can find rings for these engines also. But when it comes to like intake manifolds or exhausts or high-speed needles or carb parts, it's going to be very, very difficult, and it's only going to get more and more difficult to find these kinds of parts for these engines. So that's why I'm saying, buy a new in-box engine whenever possible. You will love yourself for it, and it will last you many years if properly cared for and maintained. And you'll have that pride of ownership and the excitement of having a box that you have to take the tissue paper out of, and you see all the accessories and tools wrapped in bags, never taken, never disturbed. Those kinds of experiences are nice, and that's exactly the kind of experience I had all throughout the late 80s and 90s, because I had to buy all new engines. And there's nothing like the feeling of buying a new engine and just seeing it in all its glory, just as it was intended from the manufacturer. Which almost makes me think, maybe I should just do a series on new in-box engines. Yeah, anyway, thank you all for watching, and have a good day.